Terroir. So far in this course, we have learnt about the basics of the vine and the environmental aspects that will have an effect on its growth, and in turn how this can affect the grape's flavor. From this point, we can now introduce a term that you will hear a lot in the world of wine: terroir. Terroir is a French word with no English translation, and is one of the most argued about and misunderstood concepts in the world of wine. Some people may think that you don't need to learn about terroir to learn about and enjoy wine. And they're probably right. You don't need to learn about terroir, but at its heart, terroir describes one of wine's most unique characteristics: its ability, in the best wines, to taste of the place where it is from. If this is the first time that you have heard of such a concept, you might think it's ridiculous. How can wine taste of a place? For that matter, how can a place taste of anything at all? Does your house have a taste? Can Australia have a taste? Before we start trying to eat countries, let's try and define terroir. Imagine all the things that can have an effect on the flavor of a wine: the soil, the climate, even the winemaker. Terroir isn't the things themselves. Terroir is not the soil, it is not the rain or the altitude, but the sum effect that all these things have on the final wine. Terroir is the way these elements will be tasted in the wine. So a wine grown from a certain part of France can have a particular flavor that isn't the fruit, soil, or winemaker, but a combination of them that is always present in wines made in that place. Here's how the idea is supposed to work. Imagine a winemaker who owns a plot of land on a hill. On this hill, she plants a single clone of Chenin Blanc, and they are attached to the identical rootstock. On the hill next door, another winemaker does the exact same thing. The vines grow, and a few years later, both winemakers are ready for the first harvest. They pick their grapes and make their wine in exactly the same way. Incredibly, the wines end up tasting different from each other. The question is, what are these differences and how did they get there? The slight differences between the location of the hill, the different soils the hills are made of, the climate, and other minor differences all can have an effect on the flavor of the final wine. That is terroir. You could say it is the flavor of place. The word comes from France, where they have been making wine in certain tiny spots for hundreds and hundreds of years. Over time, they realized that certain plots of land made wine that tasted different from others. Terroir is the flavor that these winemakers believed came from the place. Remember how we said that the flavor of wine is like a language? Right, so by learning about wine, you are starting to learn this language. Each new fact and bit of information you learn about tannins, acidity, and climate is another word or piece of grammar in the language of flavor. Terroir is not a lesson to be learned. It is not a rule of the language. It is the accent. Can you guess where these people are from? Hello, my name is Jacques, and I only ride my bicycle with a baguette sticking out of the back. Yeah, alright, mate. I love me dingoes, beer, and cricket, Struth. Here, there. Why don't you be a dear and come sit here for a cup of tea? Well, those were some terrible accents. We can guess where the speakers are from. The idea of terroir is like this. By tasting a wine, you are able to identify where it comes from by the characteristics that that place gives the wine, just like the Frenchman, Australian, and Englishman. So in a perfect world, a South African Chenin Blanc from Stellenbosch should have its own unique flavor, different from a Chenin Blanc from the Loire in France. Not just different, but unique. But not all wines will reflect their place, and that's where it gets confusing. Winemakers need to try and make wine to reflect the place. If they don't, those differences that make one place different from another can be lost. It's like the Australian losing his accent. Do not worry too much about terroir. The idea of terroir is controversial, debatable, and confusing, which is just like wine, sometimes, and probably why terroir will be here to stay forever. Congratulations on finishing the subject on the vine. In the next subject, we are going to be learning about how the fruit from these vines are turned into wine.